Now, for a few minutes, I want to ask you this question. How many like sweets? Oh, good number of hands, okay? Well, I have got some sweets with me today on this tray, and I will display them. These are Liquorice All Sorts. And Liquorice All Sorts happened to be one of David's favourites. And I would just love to sit at the communion table and you could enjoy watching me eating them all. Okay, but I'll not be so greedy. Now, let me tell you something about Liquorice All Sorts. Liquorice All Sorts was created due to a fall. In 1899, Bassett's in Sheffield sent a man called Charlie Thompson to Leicester, and he was going to meet a buyer and a sweet distributor, and he had a tray like this ready of Liquorice All Sorts for the buyer to look at. And he was waiting in the office, and all of a sudden the call came through for him to go in and meet the managing director of the company. And he got a bit flustered, and he was picking up his tray, and he was trying to get through the door, and he was wondering, I've got two hands, it was a bigger tray than this, how am I going to open the door? And he put his elbow to the door and tried to knee it, like the way we do sometimes. And the door sort of sprung open as he was trying it, because the managing director got up out of his chair and came and opened the door, and he fell in. And guess what happened, boys and girls, young people, to all the sweets? They fell on the floor. Now, if I dropped these on the carpet, I wonder how many of you would say, well, that's all right. I'll eat them anyway. Right? Wealthy. Good man. I would do the same. All right? But these sweets were created due to a fall. And you see, the buyer looked at them. And now they weren't all laid in rows like this. They were all together, lying on the floor, just jumbled up. An assortment of licorice sweets. And he thought to himself, I could sell them. Rather than just sell 20 of these, he thought, if they all come together in a box or a bag, I could sell them. But what would we call them? An assortment of licorice sweets. They contacted Bassett's, and Bassett's was so impressed with Charlie Thompson, they said, Mr. Thompson, you name the sweets. And that's where the name Liquorice All Sorts came from. They were created due to a fall. Okay? Now I want you to think of something else. You see, all of these licorice sweets have one thing in common. I wonder what it is. Well, I'll tell you what it is. Every one of these sweets, and I'm sorry I should have had a pair of gloves on, every one of these sweets has got licorice. No matter which ones. See, there's another one with licorice. Here's like a sandwich. It's got licorice. All right? Even these ones. All right. So, I want you to think of this. Some of them are all black. All licorice. Remember, the Bible teaches black speaks about sin. Now, that's very interesting. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And there's some people, of course, and the mark of sin is seen in their lives. There's not any goodness. They're just pure evil. And we could think about murderers, and we could think about thieves. They're really careless sinners. And they're found in this package. All right? But there's others. And there's none of them here. No. There's a black on the outside, but a white on the inside. There's some of them have got like a sandwich colour. You can see the black and you can see the white. And some people, of course, have a display of goodness. And they do good things. And yet, at the same time, they have a heart that's full of sin and evil. And, of course, one of the favourites is the little pink one. And you can't see the inside of it. Lovely and chewy, but when you bite into it, again, you've got the black licorice. You see, God sees the heart. Now, all of these licorice sweets, at the conscience of time, there's one thing in common. They've all got licorice inside. They've all made of licorice. And you see, that teaches us that there's something wrong in our lives. And what does it teach us? It teaches us about sin. And that's our biggest problem, isn't it? For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And the awful thing is that sin separates from God. And yet the awful thing is this: we all love licorice. Because I've already told you, it's my favourite sweet. And we have this bias and this inbuilt tendency to that which is evil and that which is wrong. And even though we haven't murdered or stole or robbed a bank or created a riot, yet we all have problems with sinful thoughts. We all have problem with jealousy. We all have problem with envy. We all have problem with lies. And you see, and that's what the essence of sin is. Sin is any want of conformity unto or transgression of the law of God. Now, I'll tell you one other thing, okay? Not only was the licorice created due to a fall, and not only have they all got one thing in common, that is they're all made of licorice, at least in part, and that speaks of sin, but they're all loved. Every one in the packet, even Bertie Bassett, if you can get the hold of him, he's a favourite, isn't he? He's made up of all of these sweets together. And you see, Liquorice All Sorts from 1899 have been sold all over England, and I suppose right throughout the Commonwealth and maybe even beyond, because people, once they get a taste of these sweets, they love them. They're like me. That's their favourite. What does the Bible teach? God is love. And the greatest demonstration that God is love was when you stand at the cross. But God commended his love toward us, and while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. And the wonderful thing about it is that the word sweet is actually mentioned 113 times in the Bible. And I just wonder, because I asked you, do you love sweets? And you said you did. I wonder, do you recognize how much you're loved by God the Father in the wonderful sending and the sacrifice of Jesus Christ in the cross for you? Paul was taken up with this theme, the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. So I leave that with you. I've only handled maybe 2 or 3 of them. So if you want to get one, please feel free to come up and take one. I do want to thank our sister Jill for the bag of Liquorice All Sorts. And there's a little lesson and a little thing that we can learn from the Liquorice All Sorts.